this transmission I'm bringing through is quite difficult because we're in a very difficult time, and I'm speaking into very dark realities and aspects of our realm that are playing out in our collective and the energy field that many of us don't want to maybe necessarily speak into right now. And it's an energy that I've been bringing more and more into my channel, which is talking about the prison grid and the controllers of this realm. But because there is a dark reality that is happening in the collective, and we are connected, guys, we can't deny anymore that we're separate. There's a differentiation we have to establish here, that if something is hiding, a shadow is hiding, it's hiding for a purpose because it doesn't want to be seen. So how do you go about it? You just pretend it's not there? You're giving it a service. What you want to do is you want to look at it, acknowledge it, see it, and bring it to the light. Bring it to the light. Welcome back to my channel, or welcome if this is your first time. The intention for me to come in here today was to do an energy update. And I'm realizing, like, the very first layer is just there's a lot of physical discomfort. Sometimes for me, when there's very strong reconfiguration, like that's how I call it, but like a reconfiguration energy or wave we're going through, I tend to be quiet, like I don't share much. But I chose, like, okay, I'm gonna come in and share. And usually I tend to really go inward. Like, that's the phase where I stay quiet. I do a lot of my own inner reconfiguration. But and also going through a lot of physical discomforts. I don't know about you guys, but for me, it's been like 3 consecutive days of migraines and like affecting my eye vision, my eyesight. And sometimes that's not common for me at all, to have like 3 days of consecutive migraines where you sleep and wake up with it. So each one of us can experience it in different ways. Let me know in the comments below if you're experiencing any physical challenge as you're going through this. But the very first thing I want to talk into, the first energy I want to talk into, is that of like a pressure cooker. Like, it feels like things are intensifying for diffusion. Like, it's just like things are really bubbling up. And again, as you know, if it's your first time, but most of the times with the energies we're going through, sometimes it's the collective, sometimes it's personal, sometimes it's both. And that's another point actually, where right now it feels like, what is what? Like, and if you I don't like labels, but sometimes we gotta use words. But if you know that you're someone that's, your sensitivity got heightened for whatever reason, or you're born super highly sensitive and you absorb things, or you're not able to, you get lost in the other person, you don't know what is you, what is not. I've done a couple of videos, if you want to check them out, that can support know what is you and what is the other person. But if you're feeling these things right now, I feel like it's like a whole blending in, like it's like a pressure cooker, but at the same time it's that enmeshment feeling, like you don't even know what is your stuff, what is the other person's stuff, what is the collective. Like, at this stage it's all blended in together. And I don't know why I'm just keep seeing like that. I think I keep seeing like a pot. Like, first of all, it's boiling, but at the same time it's like a melting pot of like just so many different things. And it's feeling like, okay, where are we going? What's gonna explode? What's gonna happen? And also, what the hell? Like, I just wanna not be in that melting pot. It feels like a melting pot of energies. It's quite fascinating. But it feels like this enmeshment. Yeah, that's the other vision that I'm seeing, is as if like the energies are like kind of squishing us as well, like squishing us all together and cornering us. It feels like a cornering, but it's also seeing it like a squeeze. You know, when you want to let something pop, it's like it's gonna get squeezed. And so now I'm saying this, like, what the hell is going to happen in the collective, that it feels like this, like it's a squeezing of something, like something's being cornered and then it's going to pop and just release. It's crazy. It's really crazy. I'm loving this transmission today. It's like the whole analogies and the expression of the whole thing is really funny. And I spoke about this a couple of times, but the level of narratives so that are going on, and I think the level of distractions, because the thing is that if something, okay, let's go with this right now. The shadow is being squeezed. The shadow is being cornered. So your own inner shadow, the collective shadow, the shadow that is which doesn't want to be seen, okay? So it's being squeezed because it wants to pop out. But then you're finding that there's all these distractions happening around you, macro, yeah, collective, personal, just to distract you from actually the squeeze actually happening. And so you're feeling like you're being pulled in all different directions. Like, first of all, you're being squeezed, but then you're being pulled into those distractive, illusionary ideas and narratives. And you're like, what the hell is going on here also? Like, why am I being pulled into that scenario? Why am I being pulled into that narrative? Where actually the main focus needs to be into that discomfort of that squeeze, of that bubbling up. And I think it could be that it's an internal mechanism that wants to, it does not like the discomfort. And same with the physical discomforts, right? We tend to not want to sit with those physical discomforts, because when we do, a lot is going to come out, right? It's like we can really see the root of that physical discomfort. So the same with that squeeze that wants to come out. It's like there's this internal defense mechanism that wants to not look at the darkness, that doesn't want to look at what is really happening, and wants to instead run away into those narratives. And sometimes those narratives are kind of more alluring because they're more dramatic, you know, in nature, or they're more like, oh my god, like this is really what's going on, or about also like distracting you into external things. So then you start looking too much on the external, what this person is doing, or what that thing is happening, or what drama is happening on the outside, when actually the main thing is happening. And I think this is very difficult for me to say, because I'm someone that's never been into politics. And I think that the reason for that is because I always felt deep down it's a show, even as a kid. And second of all, like, it's a headache. And third of all, I felt like I couldn't resonate. I couldn't relate. And the more that I started understanding the truth of this world and how much we've been lied to and deceived, the more I'm like, I still don't want to talk about politics, but the more I'm like understanding why it's a scam. It's a whole lie. But also understanding that actually, oh, that's the part of politics which is the shadow and the hidden parts that actually is exciting, that I want to talk about. Not what the show is and the dramas and the narratives. And so there are parts in us, and I think that a lot of pioneers or people that put themselves out there to share don't want to talk into those things, because first, I feel there's a lot of unknown. And I think that's the humility to say, you know what, I don't know. You know what, I don't know why these things are happening. I don't know what the energetic meaning of this. Or to actually say it's actually quite cruel and evil, and it's going to help get me to shatter the different illusions or perspectives I had, spiritual perspectives, or maybe the spiritual theories or concepts or teachings that I'm putting out there, talking into the shadow and into the darkness, going to shatter this. And so a big one that I feel like was very heavy for many of us, which is, you know, the child trafficking, the child abuse, that it's beyond that. It's the it's a very deep topic. It's a very deep topic because it's a war on innocence. It's a war on divinity. And it also touches very deep wounds. That torture and the sexual abuse and all forms of abuse that are happening to children. And for me, I know it touches a personal wound. I feel like it touches a personal wound to many, because many of us have been abused. And the thing is, a big percentage of people get abused, and not many talk about it. So it's a big shadow. And for myself, I've experienced sexual abuse. So it's a very big part that needs healing and integrating. And I must admit that it's not, I don't know, it's layers and layers. I just feel that it's quite fascinating for me when I come here. It's so powerful, and why I feel it's a transmission, because I start with an idea, I start with an energy, and just so much more actually reveals itself. And like, in no point I had the intention that I'm going to speak into the shadow of like what's happening to children. And I think that now that I'm voicing all this out, this is what's happening, is that this bubbling up, this squeezing, this melting pot is actually the wound of the abused child. Because the abused child, first of all, loses sense of boundaries. The child, as up until a specific stage, their consciousness is merging and enmeshed with other people's consciousnesses. It doesn't know that it is different from the other person, doesn't even have sense of time and space. That sometimes when something is gone, they believe that it's completely gone. And so it's a very delicate mechanic that the child holds, in terms of identity, in terms of knowing itself in the world, in terms of relating, in terms of building a safe nervous system, building a safe container. I feel that many of us right now are experiencing this wound of the inner child, and it's like a melting pot as well of emotions, because it's this anger and this pain and this deep terror and deep anxiety, but at the same time this deep pressure and this confusion. It's like an entire melting pot of energies within one's own consciousness. And so this is coming up to the surface, and many of us could be feeling that. And that is why it's making sense to why there's this feeling of not being fully grounded in the body right now, where there's amplification of addictions, there's an internal pull towards old habits of numbing or running away, kind of what I was saying in the beginning, that distraction into the outside world, because the deepest collective shadow and darkness is being squeezed out to come into the light, so that it's seen, so that it disintegrates the shadow. It disintegrates, you integrate the shadow, but what happens, you're disintegrating the secretness of it. So the shadow becomes into the light. You're disintegrating the shadow into the light. So one of the things actually is that is happening with the fortification of the spiritual war that's going on, because a very big war is happening. My brain is happening energetically, but also it's so sad to say and intense, but it feels like we're being laughed at. Like the jokers, the jesters, the clowns in that world, like they're literally just laughing at the level of foolishness or being fooled that we've been in. And they're kind of feeding off of that. They're feeding off of our ignorance. And they're feeding off of the fact that we've been just like puppets in this world. And we've just been controlled all along. And so there's little bit of that visibility of, in our life, we feel like we're being steered rather than us steering. And I think it's a very delicate matter because we have a thread into the prison grid and we have a thread into the divine blueprint. But with our conditionings, with being part of that space, that realm, also depends on the environment you live in and the level of intensity of the agents of the matrix, or the level of intensity of the hooks that you have into that prison grid, is that it can be either more amplified, intensified, or not. It's literally a spiritual battle that's being intensified. And if you're feeling it and you're picking it up in your own body, you can literally feel that sense of like, we're literally being fooled, and there's this rebellion, and there's this kind of this sensitivity or allergy to being fooled right now. So like it's really coming up like so strongly, like we don't want to be fooled. And this level of like extra eyes or extra awareness coming up, and sensitivity to when something is happening that where you feel like you're being manipulated or controlled or deceived. If you've been shut down for so long, the other extreme is going to come up where it's just like you've been chained, like imagine a dragon, and you're just going to take it all out, you know? So it can bring a little bit of that energy of extreme energy. Collective macro, right? Is that intense reaction. And just to be mindful that it's not, it might feel like it's a paranoia, but it's not really paranoia. It's literally like you're just swinging back out because you've been there and you're just, you know? It's a weird aspect of consciousness that needs to be moved through and alchemized, and bring back that empowerment, that self-empowerment towards. My intention is not to bring fear or is to bring any sort of message that could be conflicted or misunderstood, but also that could happen. Like, you know, we share and everybody understands it through their own lens of perspective, or, you know, they can take your words and, I don't know, misunderstand it. But my intention, first of all, was to do an energy update. And energy updates, usually their purpose for me, my own energy updates, is to translate what we're going through collectively, or to translate aspects of our consciousness that we're tuned into or that are being more amplified in those moments. And so I didn't know that was going to come through, and that is the energy I'm bringing in. That is, there is a very dark tunnel that we're going through right now. Like, we can't deny it. And many of us don't want to bring awareness towards them because, you know, you can say, okay, it's not part of my reality. That's fine. But if you're listening to this and it's part of your reality, I feel this is a calling, like it's really a calling to warriors of light. Like, it's literally calling to God's warriors. All my movements, even, like, it's always very visible for me, but a calling to the warriors of God to show up and to come through in a completely different way. Like, we're literally asked to literally carry our swords. Okay, I'm saying a sword, but, and as we're walking, our visibility to those things, or our experiences through those things, not to get lost, that this is part of the unseen realm that we're not aware of, but we're plugged into still. And many of us don't want us to be plugged into, but we're still moving and blending through it because we're part of it. And just right now, not to forget that we're not it. we're feeling like we're absorbing it. But remember that just like that's why it's the warrior of God right now, is to remember that goo-like feeling of moving through that realm, that existence, is to know that it's up to us to like shatter it through the eyes of awareness, through the lens of awareness. And now it's going to be challenging because there's aspects in the personal that are being brought to the surface, and they're kind of like, okay, we're saying about the jokers, they kind of are tickling those wounds, you know, they're tickling those wounds and feeding off of it, but like tickling those wounds, and for us as warrior of God to see it and say like, okay, it's just a wound, and I'm not going to forget who I am. I'm not going to forget my essence. I'm not going to forget the light. Because I feel right now what's happening with all the different narratives out there, and the different awakenings, and the different truth that are coming to the surface, and the different speakers of truth. Like a lot of people, as I said, they're coming, like, you know, and they're throwing in all those truths with intensity, with anger, with emotion, with energy behind it. It's like, okay, but let's just not forget that we are the light. Let's not forget this. Let's not forget this. Let's not forget our divine core inside. Let's not forget this. This is very important right now. Let's not forget this. Let's not forget God. Let's not forget our light. And that can mean a zillion things for you personally. What does it mean for you to be the light right now in that situation? I don't know. This is a million things. You want to figure out what that means, you can reach out to me. You need that personal work, let's do the work together. But as a general theme, that's what it means. But personally, your challenge, you're struggling, let's do it together. Let's figure it out together. But it's really that what it means for you to step into your light, what it means for you to be that light in that moment, that light of awareness, to keep staying as the warrior of God, to know of what is going on in the unseen realm, and to keep being that channel of God, to keep calling in on the name of truth, love, wisdom, and awareness all the time. So I'm going to leave you with that message right now. Let me know your thoughts in the comment below, what you're navigating. But also, please, if you like this, support this channel by liking, sharing, and subscribing.